Welcome to the Clueless to Conscious podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Dills, joined by my amazing co-host, Shadi Rose. Together, we're here to explore all things holistic and spiritual.
So grab your favorite tea and get cozy and join us on this journey from clueless to conscious.
Let's get started! Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Clueless to Conscious.
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
We're doing it.
3 months in a row.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty freaking good. Thanks for coming back for more. This episode, we're going to talk about multiple things, but one of the things that we wanted to focus on was the Telepathy Tapes, another podcast, not as successful as ours,
Not
but
nearly.
it's up there. They're trying.
Have you guys been watching, listening? Have you guys been listening to the Telepathy Tapes? I feel like a lot of people are listening.
I feel like so many people are listening. I saw it at one point. It was blowing up all over my TikTok feed, and then my sister, my mom, multiple people that go to this walking meditation group that we go to were talking about it. So I thought, heck, I'll listen to it. Actually, I didn't even think that. I was in the car with my mom, and she said, I'm going to listen to it. And I was there. So that's why I started from episode 4.
Because she already listened?
Yeah, she already listened to the first 3. I went back and I listened to 1 and 2 on 2x speed so that I could be prepared for our talk today. But there will be some things that I missed.
That's okay, because I think I still have like either half an episode left or an episode left. And towards the end, it started to get a little bit... It was
losing you?
No, it wasn't losing me. It was just like, I don't want to say sad, but there started to be some heavier themes coming up towards the end.
It was emotional.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was more emotional. So I was like, do I have the space for listening to this right now?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
But I did. It was still good. And like, honestly, okay, let's start at the beginning.
What's the Telepathy Tapes about? So the Telepathy Tapes is a podcast that explores how people with autism who are considered non-speakers communicate through telepathy,
or some of them say it's like it's beyond telepathy and it's just like a shared consciousness, which
is right up our alley.
We're all sharing consciousness.
Yes. It kind of also explores different forms of intelligence. They are perceived to not be intelligent, basically, by regular standards of
like
intelligence
schools and like testing. Like regular testing and like a lot of schools and like institutions, I guess, established institutions.
Yeah, would consider them to not be intelligent, to not be fully there. And honestly, they're just written off as kind of like a lost cause, basically. A lot of people just think that, because they can't communicate in the ways that we communicate, through talking, that they are not fully there. But what these telepathy tapes are aiming to explore and dismantle is the fact that they are very intelligent. They just are expressing different forms of intelligence and are actually, I would consider, more connected to this like universal knowledge than we are as like neurotypical people.
Yeah, they're definitely more connected. And I think even with the intelligence portion, like a lot of them are intelligent by traditional standards, but it's just because they can't communicate it to us that like we don't recognize it. But like they have knowledge of like literature and art and, like things that we...
I
normally abled.
I don't know what word
value also. But people have always said like, blind people, like when you lose one sense, your other senses are heightened. So like they don't have the ability to speak and communicate, or like some of them have gained the ability to communicate in certain ways, but they don't have the ability to speak, most of them. But they have other senses that are more developed than ours, for sure.
And what's interesting is actually something that we've learned in our meditation practice is that through meditation, you actually are trying to get out of your body and you're trying to be, no one, nowhere, no place, no time in order to access that higher
Mhm.
knowledge. And it's something that these kids with autism are actually just have that ability without trying,
Yeah.
which can be really ungrounding sometimes living in a
Mhm.
3D world where they have all of this knowledge, but some of them can't even feel their bodies,
I know. That was like they did a
which is
specific
crazy.
story for one. I think it was just one of the stories they did, but the kid wasn't even aware of his body, and the mom
Mhm.
like went around and held his arm, like moved all the way down his arm, like holding his arm, touching his feet, his legs to help him become aware of his body. Like
Right. I think that was the second episode, right? Where he was saying that
it
he didn't
might
even
have
know
been,
that
it
he
might
had a
have been. Yeah, I
body.
think it was. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. He didn't even know that he had a body.
Yeah, which is so crazy because one of the ways that they're able to communicate um through so that we can understand is that they will use like an iPad or like a speller, right? I think it's called a
Mhm.
speller, so that
Yeah.
they can like point at certain words or letters and create and then the machine will
Speak.
speak the words so that they can communicate in a way that we understand.
Mhm.
Some of the ways that they learn how to do that is they have like a facilitator kind of like basically like guide their like wrist or something so
Yeah.
that they can like understand that sensation, and then hopefully they've done that, practice that enough where they like are kind of like moving up the arm, so maybe that the facilitator only needs to touch their shoulder for them to be able to spell, and then eventually they don't need to be touched at all. But one
Yeah.
of the reasons why that's like, I guess, a really not good thing, yeah,
Controversial.
it's like a controversial mode of communication is because a lot of people think that the facilitator is like guiding their hand. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what those are called, but the helper is like guiding their hand. So they're the ones that are actually speaking for them.
Yeah.
But it's been disproven like time and time again. They've done so many scientific experiments to make sure that they wouldn't know the
Yeah.
information. So it's very interesting. I don't want to like butcher any of what the podcast is about.
Yeah,
So I would definitely recommend like listening to it for yourself.
definitely listen to
But I
it.
just feel like we need to give some background if
Yeah.
you haven't listened to the podcast.
It made me happy to
Yeah,
know.
it was exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting because even the ones who can't spell yet, like just knowing that they have a way to communicate with other non-speakers or that they're
Mhm.
communicating with something or someone, it
Mhm.
just like made me happy because like at least they're able to communicate or commune with something, whether that's an energy or other people. They have some sense of connection, even if
Yeah.
most of the world isn't able to connect with them. Sometimes it can be sad to think about if that person can't speak to anyone and you don't know if they're like a lot of the parents for a long time didn't even know if their child was really in there. Just knowing that they had something, hopefully, that whole time.
There's like two sides to it that you just mentioned. That there's a side to it that listening to this podcast has enlightened me to the fact that they're there and they're present
Yeah.
and they're conscious, which is really cool and really exciting to think about, that they have access to all of these, the like, you know, what is it, esoteric knowledge. But then the other side to it is that it is kind of emotional thinking about how for years, like, they've been discarded as you can't talk like us. So your mode of communication is not valid and
Yeah.
that you're not there and we've kind of given up on you.
Mhm.
Because I think that you were telling me about, I don't think I got to this episode where the mom, she
Yeah, there
was
was like a
kind of given
specific.
up.
Yeah, because the doctors like had told her for so many years like your kid isn't in there, so stop like trying pretty much. And this woman was like a single mom with I can't remember how many kids, but I want to say like 5 kids.
Mm.
And at some point she was like, "Okay, fine. He's not in there." She just listened to what everyone else was telling her. And then there was like a moment where he was 17 years old. So think about 17 years he had spent being basically unrecognized as a person. And
Mhm.
then he was finally got up. I'm not sure, like he knew that he had to break through in order to like to get his mom, and so he did. He somehow was able to control his body enough to like look her straight in the eyes and say, "Mom, I love you." And like that was the first time he had ever looked her in the eyes. It was the first time he ever said mom, the first time he had ever said anything. And it's like it's
Wow.
like beautiful and heart-wrenching, and it's just
Yeah.
like so many things. But she took that and she was like, "Okay, I know that you're in there now, and I'm gonna do everything that I can to give you a voice, to be with you, and to recognize you."
Eventually, she understood that he could read her mind, right?
Yeah, yes, he
Yeah.
could read her mind, which she expressed. He read my mind when I like hated autism, and when I had given up on him, and all of these things, which I can't even imagine. I honestly can't imagine, but
Yeah.
she turned it around. She was like,
Yeah.
I know now. Thank you for giving me that sign that I
Yeah.
needed to see that you're there. And now I know, and I'll fight for you."
Okay, so basically how this whole thing started was because there was moms who obviously like taking care of their children, and they were finding that their sons, their daughters who are autistic, who supposedly according to like traditional standards couldn't understand them, wasn't fully there, and all of a sudden they know things about where they had been that day. So they knew where the mom like
Mm.
went to the store that day, what she ate for lunch, um, without having ever being told this. And so even if like the mom were to like hide some candy like under her bed, the children knew where the candy was because they were using telepathy to basically like see where she had went that day. And there was just all these circumstances, all these like amazing crazy circumstances where it was not a coincidence anymore. There was
Yeah.
validity in what was happening, that a bunch of researchers started to like take it seriously, do all these tests, and then have found that okay, now we kind of have to figure out why this is happening. And I really like that they had like a full episode just on the science of it, which I don't think was ever really like solidified because they basically were posing the hypothesis that because we all have an electromagnetic field around us, that maybe that's how we're interacting.
Mm.
And then they put people like in this like chamber where they didn't have any like their electromagnetic activity. There was nothing that could penetrate, I guess, through like this whole
Yeah.
chamber, and the telepathy was still working. So they're like, okay, well that's not it. And so it just leads us into this greater question of we're all connected through this invisible field, no matter the physical circumstances.
Yeah.
And that is so crazy to think about. It's kind of like the concept of also when you're thinking about someone and then you look at your phone, you get a notification that like they had just sent you a text. It's like I remember one time like a while ago, I was talking to someone about that and it was like, am I just tapping into like maybe the electromagnetic field in my phone and that it is getting a text? But then it's also like a span of, 20 minutes have gone by and, oh, they're like giving me a call. Oh, yeah, I was thinking about you 30 minutes ago. Like, that's not through the phone,
Yeah, it's not
Like,
through the
that's not through the
phone.
phone. I'm still trying to understand that part in itself. That's like kind of a mind fuck in its own.
Yeah.
But we as, speakers could also tap into these abilities. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And even though like these non-speakers have had to suffer, a lot of their lives and people not understanding them, they are also being shown to us as a means of possibilities,
Mm.
that like there is the potential for us to communicate in this way and have more of an understanding that you don't even need to speak words to someone. You can literally just like communicate with them telepathically. And now you don't even have any kind of room for error. They know exactly the intention, they know exactly the energy that you're trying to convey, they know the words that you're trying to use without using any words. And
Yeah.
that is like in itself so crazy. Just like imagine there's no misunderstanding, there's no room for interpretation of anyone's intentions. You're literally just communicating through, yeah, telepathy, which like telepathy too in itself is a limiting word because people just think like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just throwing words into your mind. But it's like so much more than
Yeah,
that
it is.
too.
It's so much more than that. I don't know. There was so many cool things in
Yeah,
that
so cool. I was like,
podcast.
okay, when is she gonna get to like how can I do
Yeah,
this?
how can I do this? I know because
How can I go to the hill?
they did. I know, and well, they did talk about some of the facilitators because they try and clear their thoughts and like try and get into a very clear state before they like
Mhm.
do these things just to make sure that they're not mixing their thoughts and expectations up with the children's so we can really understand like this is coming from the child.
Mhm.
But I was thinking the same thing like when I was listening. I'm like, okay, like what are you doing to clear yourself? Like how are you
Mm.
doing this? And I think one of the facilitators or the helpers did say that she got to go to the hill like
Yeah.
one time.
So we should say what the hill
Yeah, we
is.
should. Which the hill, so basically this story was like independently introduced in multiple of the storylines on the podcast, which was cool.
Mhm.
But basically the hill is where these children go. It's not a physical place.
Mhm.
It's their meeting place though. And so it can be a few kids up to like a large number of them, non-speakers. They're meeting on the hill, mentally meeting there. And then they get to talk and hang out. Like that's like a place where they actually get to act like a kid, which was like
Yeah.
so cool and like have friends. And like some of them, like some
Mhm.
of these kids, their best friend is someone that they've never met, but they
Mhm.
hang out on the hill. I don't actually know. This might have been autistic people also, but like some people, like some of the people on the hill have passed already, like
Right.
and they come periodically or sometimes like right after they pass, they'll be at the hill.
Yeah, and you have to think of it also too like vibrationally for you to get to the hill. So one of the guys, he to get to the hill, he will go to his room and put pillows on his like face on his body to really like get basically he's getting into a meditative state,
Mhm.
right? To get into this meditative state to elevate his energy to be able to access the hill. So you can't just get there
Yeah.
willy-nilly. You have to be also like in that energetic state.
Yeah, and he was also like trying to drown out the noise of the house
Mhm.
and the other people around him because like those thoughts will muddy up his state.
The parents know, like, okay, they're in their room for like, a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And they're hanging out with their friends. And
Yeah.
even some of there was like this little couple that was on it that they would like go to the hill and have like dates and stuff
Yeah.
and talk and just like get to know each other and that they could communicate telepathically. And literally like even if they're in the same building, I
Yeah,
remember
they
there
were
was
actually like lived close by to each other. So
mhm. Yeah, they went to the
they
same
interacted in the
school at one
physical
point, yeah.
world as well as like going to the hill and stuff.
Yes, 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 yes. And then they would have like dates where I can't remember if she said there was like a theater or they were at a theater or something like that. And they were both like on different floors in the physical realm. And that at the end they were like, oh, that was such a
That
great
was the
date.
best day. I know. It's so
Yeah.
sweet. Like
It's so sweet.
they had their date and they weren't even in the same room with each other, but both of them were just like that was the best time. Like
Yeah. Oh my God. It was just so Oh, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it
It's really
is.
cool to think about that also that this community, like regardless of their oppression, are so excited now that the telepathy tapes have come out and that now more people are becoming aware of
Yeah.
these possibilities. And I'm almost thinking like, wait, when we put this out, like, are they gonna telepathically like tune in and watch? Because they could
Yeah.
they could tune in and listen to this
Yeah, they
podcast.
might be listening right now because we said the telepathy tapes.
I know. Oh my god, it's
Because
just
they
so
were really
cool.
excited. Like all the children and even the families were really excited that this podcast was coming out. That was something that they said because they
Yeah.
want people to know and just like
Mhm.
be aware and open to what's going on. And
Mhm. And that's also raising the collective consciousness too.
yeah.
Like being aware of all of these possibilities expands what you believe are the possibilities of your own life,
Yeah.
to be more understanding, to be more empathetic, compassionate. One of the girls on the podcast was saying that more and more people are going to be introduced to mystical and magical stuff. And I'm like, yes, I'm so
Yeah, bring it
ready. So, yeah, I'm
on.
like, can I get first peek?
Yeah. Where do we sign up?
Yeah, it's so cool. And because it also like ties into energy work, how I truly believe that everyone is a channel, in their own right and
Mhm.
channeling information from source or like their higher mind and everything like that. It to me, it ties so much of my beliefs already together because I listened to the first episode and I was like, "Oh, you don't need to convince me." Like
Yeah.
that makes so much sense to me that there are people out there who, like you said, like there are some senses that are taken away in the physical. So maybe they're not able to feel their body, they're not able to speak, but that's been substituted with something even greater and even higher for them
Yeah.
to now teach us. We think that we're having to teach them and how to talk. And oh my God, they're like so fragile, little baby, and they don't know anything. But they're literally the ones that like have this crazy capacity to
Mhm.
teach us, hey, there are other ways to communicate and to also be connected with divine knowledge. There was a really cool episode where they were talking about how our perception of like savants.
They can do like extraordinary things without any traditional training
Yes.
in
Like,
a
how do I say
field, like
that?
whether it's like music or mathematics or whatever.
There was this one episode where one of the guys in it, that he like knew multiple languages and was able to literally like download from a freaking
I
book like
know.
what the whole book was about and then tell you a summary of the book and then communicate that telepathically. Like, oh my God, that is
I
crazy. I was
know.
like, wait, I want to learn Spanish. How do I do that? I was like looking up on Google how to telepathically
Oh my God,
download Spanish
yes,
language into
yes.
my brain.
Mm.
The analogy that I use for myself a lot is my body as a computer system, like rewiring. We think about just like those terms that we use, rewiring your um rewiring your brain to learn this, to do this, downloading this is a program, all of these terminologies that are used for computer systems.
Yeah.
Think about now the same concept. You can download information without doing any learning, basically. You can just
Yeah. Without
computer
doing any
chip
work. You just
without
have
doing
to
any
like go
work.
like this.
Yes, you can download a freaking computer chip and you know everything. And it's not even in the physical, right? You don't have to implant anything in you. You can
Yeah,
literally just like
yeah.
master that. How does that work? I still don't know.
Yeah, I don't
I
know,
still don't
but
know
it's
how
cool. It's a
I
cool
would do
idea.
that.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool that some people can do that. Hopefully it'll trickle down.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
knowledge will trickle down. Do you want to try and read my mind?
Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna let's do a little experiment as to non I'm not telepathic right now. I haven't developed that skill.
Okay.
But I'm gonna picture something in my mind and you try and guess what it is, okay?
Okay, let's
I'm
do
gonna have
this.
a really clear. I already have it in my mind. It's a really clear picture.
Wait, are you sending it to me?
Wait, I'm just picturing it, but let me try and send it to you.
I don't know. I don't know. I was getting like an umbrella and the beach, and then I was getting a temple. I don't know.
It
What were
was.
you sending me?
I was sending you a butterfly.
Damn it. Okay, let me try it. Let me try it. Then send you something.
Okay. Okay. I really don't know. The only thing that came into my mind was a cat. That was not it.
No, it was a banana.
Oh,
I was
man.
trying to.
I actually had a thought like it might be some type of food, but no specific food was coming into my mind.
I actually
So.
was like opening up the banana. I was like tasting the banana. I was like shooting
Okay, you
much
did a
yellow.
good job of sending it, but I just didn't do a good job of receiving it.
Damn it. See, this is the
See,
next
hopefully-
podcast should be about how to do it.
Yeah, hopefully there's season 2 or it's going to be about how to open yourself up to this.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe part of it too is like not feeling your body, you know?
Yeah. We were like spent 2 minutes doing that. We didn't spend a
maybe
lot of time like getting beyond ourselves and into the collective consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. Like we needed to be in space at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, which maybe we can do a podcast from space.
Once we hit 1 million subscribers, we will do a podcast
not
from
literal space, but metaphysical space.
Oh.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure. And then how
yeah.
are we? We're not even talking. We're just telepathically communicating our entire episode. Like people can just download it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's literally how it's gonna be. One day, that's how it's gonna be. I hope I'm here for that. That was a fail. Should we try one more time? Let's try one. Okay, you try to think of something, and I'll try to.
Okay.
I'll try to tune in.
Wait, should I put my microphone down?
Okay. I initially got a rock.
A rock?
and then it morphed into like a cliff, and then it turned into a bird, a flying bird.
Okay, it
What was
wasn't
it?
those things, but it was a rainbow.
Oh my god,
But
damn it.
I mean, I feel like I was seeing the rainbow outside. Like the cliff could have been on the other side of what I was seeing. That's just not
Like
what I was
tuning
focusing
into
on.
like the full picture.
Yeah, you were looking
that
around.
If you turned around at the rainbow.
Yeah. So it might have been connected. It could have.
Maybe it was more so connected into the energy of like, you
Yeah,
know, like
outside.
nature.
It was
and
totally. It was. Okay, but you guys, please
Oh my
don't use
God.
our experiments as any indication, of what is really going on and what this podcast is about, because you need to listen to it. It's real. It's happening. They're doing it.
100%. Yeah, we're not non-speakers, spellers, experts in any.
Yeah, in anything really.
We've never been to the hill, although I would love to go.
Yeah.
I would love to go.
We'd like to visit.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap up our episode here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you guys have listened to the telepathy tapes, let us know in the comments down below what was a big takeaway for you. Did you also feel like it was crazy?
In a cool
and
way.
do you want to go to, wild in an amazing way? And do you want to go to the hill?
Yeah, let us know.
All right. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.